Since I was a young girl, everybody would tell me to shut up. Literally. Like, Cindy, shut up. Or I would get tattletaled on because I was talking too much. Um, I mean, you name it. And I took it very deeply. I didn't like take it to heart, so to say, but I took it pretty deeply because I didn't understand why once I spoke, once I expressed myself, at least that's how I was seeing it. I was expressing myself, um, and a lot of it was truth. Like I was literally experiencing what I was speaking on. I wasn't pulling things out of thin air. I wasn't um, creating stories, although I knew how to, but I would speak on what it is that I would experience with my five senses, if not mm, my other senses as well. But being a child, to a certain extent, I didn't really understand why it was that was a problem until I began accepting my truth for what it was, and a lot of it was painful. So I repressed it, I buried it, and I did make a vow to myself that when I was ready to face it, I didn't even know what that meant, but when I was ready to face it, I would. And even to do that as a child, um, to have that type of internal conversation with self is pretty profound. Um, so I say all of that to say, like, I really know myself. I understand myself. I know that I am a bit above the average when it comes to self, being self. Like, I'm not being anybody else, I'm just being authentic to myself. I'm being who I know I am to be. I've carried this sense of self since I was a child. I went off path, so to speak, um, because there were things that I needed to learn. I needed a greater understanding of self. But in actuality, I didn't gear off of path. I just, it was my path. It was just different. It was my path. It was the path that I needed to take with the version of who I was at that given time. So, yes. Now, I'm bringing this up because the sun is setting. Look at that. Mm. So, I bring this up because I noticed that even at my ripe age of 39, that experience early on with being told to be quiet, even when I wasn't physically told to be quiet, but I was told to be quiet with the face, with the gestures, with the punishment, reactions, retaliations, the silent ones. It's still, there's some kind of residual effects of it. And I've been silent for a very long time. And it spilled over into my current last relationship. And that had to happen. That was destined to happen because who I am becoming and the life that I'm cultivating for myself, with the patterns and the traumas that I'm breaking, I can't be quiet. It is not for me to be quiet. I was not born to be quiet. I'm a truth speaker, and I used to think truth speakers were the individuals whom, let me move over a little so I could be in the sun. I used to think that the truth speakers were the individuals who were speaking on conspiracy theories, things that the government is hiding, and things like that. But my truth is the pattern recognitions that I can pick up on with individuals, within family dynamics, within workplace situations, within children, because children need protection, most of all children, which is why I'm currently in the role that I am in. Yeah. So I had to come to that acknowledgement in order for me to accept that and be that, embody it wholeheartedly. So, with that being said, I decided in 2021 to embark on a romantic relationship with my then long-term male best friend. And we made plans, and I say we, but it was really like me. I was speaking about like my long-term dream and being that the state of the world was in, like it was time for me to like jump ship and start a new life. And I had this plan already cultivated in my mind, and I'm really quick on my feet, quicker than a lot of people, and he used me for that. You know, what I learned not too long after migrating is that he already wanted to migrate, and it was not in alignment with the values and the values in which I did so. It was to outdo other people, to look a certain way, to appear a certain way, to satisfy some egoic situation that's going on. Because but a couple months into being here in Thailand, it's like there was a complete shift. I mean, complete and utter shift. Now, as I say, I recognize I'm a great pattern recognition individual, and so, let me slow down because I have a lot of information coming in my mind. When it comes to that, I don't know about other people, but I know about self. And when you are great at something, it starts with self. I can recognize my own patterns within myself, and I take the time out to figure out what do I need to do in order to, I won't say correct it, but to obliterate the aspects of myself that's allowing the patterns, the unwanted patterns, to continue. And as I do that, when I am interacting with individuals who have poor character, etc., they start to drift away and even act a certain way in reaction to my correction of self. Healing, the healing process, you know? And that's what was happening. I didn't just come here to Thailand to live the life. I mean, yes, but I lived a life. I lived all of my life in survival through parenthood, with self. As a child, I was always in survival. I was always waiting for the next blow of someone else's doing that placed me in a perpetual cycle of feeling like I'm in survival mode. And I got tired of it. I recognized it. And I was very tired of it. And the environment that I was in, Harlem, was not the environment. I was born and raised in that environment, number one. And you cannot heal in an environment that contributed to your trauma. So I I needed nature. I needed a new start. And I was brave enough to take it, to do it. And I accomplished it. You know, I look at this. I felt this version within me for a very long time. And I knew that because I felt it, I knew I couldn't envision her, but I could feel her. And that's a testament to your higher self is always you. You just have to take the steps to meet her or him. And yeah, so I'm going there. No, I'm not going everywhere. Let me ground this. So yeah, I began to recognize, like, when I reach, I didn't hesitate. I allowed this environment to engulf me in its healing properties and space in order for me to do the work that I needed to do. And a lot of it was mental. A lot of it in the beginning, it was very mental. And that allowed me to move into a space in which I could move, so that as I processed mentally what needed to be processed, I could release it physically so that it doesn't stay stuck. And I love that for me, you know? Now, when you have a goal to heal and individuals around you do not have that goal, maybe they said it, but they really are not about that, and you actually work on it and you do it and they are witnessing it, you get backlash. And I've actually, again, because I've been a truth speaker, because I've been a truth speaker, and I recognize things that a lot of people may not recognize, they don't see. I've always gotten backlash, so I'm okay. I don't allow it, but I can't force people to not retaliate, you know? I let people do what they do. I let people show me who they are, and I move accordingly. So that's what happened. I had begun my healing journey, my physical healing journey of what I was speaking on to him, and there was a lot of distance. I was speaking about as I was doing so, and one point I want to drive is that when I heal, when I intend to heal, it happens quickly. My intentions are very powerful. And again, for an individual that has no intention on changing themselves, I was eating a cucumber salad, excuse me. They will retaliate. It could be in subtle ways, it can be in a big way. But I was dealing with a subtle retaliator, so to speak. So he had begun to take things away from me, like within the relational dynamics that we had. It began with sex, it began with emotion, physical touch. I mean, whatever was happening prior, he had begun to take it away. And usually, you know, no. So me being the communicator that I am, I'm communicating with him. I'm like, what's going on? And I'm not really getting a response about it. And that's really frustrating and telling. And exhausting. So because I was so focused on self, I left it alone, and we were also I experienced financial issues, and he became angry with me, towards me, and wouldn't talk to me about it. So I was receiving retaliation from something that I didn't know about, and the issues that I was going through. And it made me question myself a lot, because at the time, because I'm like, I do understand like a person becoming frustrated. Like, we're human, you know. We have the option to help someone or not help someone, even if we have the option. And I said to myself, like, if it made him that angry to help me, why do it? Angry to the point of retaliating against someone and showing that anger. And then, so that was happening simultaneously. And I just dialed back, like, you can't make a rock bleed. Somebody told me that one time. You can't make a rock bleed. And I was like, you're right. So I led with that. I'm like, I'm not about to force this man to say what it is that he really needs to say, you know. So, and also initially, when he pulled back emotion and the physical touch and everything from me, he had befriended this individual that was living across from us. And I noticed that this individual really wasn't respectful. He wasn't a respectful person. And, it, the people the people that people choose and what they choose to turn the blind eye to when it comes to the character of other individuals that they choose, tells you a lot about the individual that you are dealing with or you know. And I learned that I spoke on the disrespect that that individual that he befriended was conveying, and I think he was very surprised that I recognized it. But I was also still like, how was he surprised? Because when I was living in Harlem, like we were friends for 10 years, 11 years prior to becoming romantic. So what I grew into this individual. He has witnessed me growing into this individual that shows the pattern recognition. So oh my God, I feel like I'm all over the place, but stay with me. I was just like, does he really believe? Like, has he not, was he not present when I was speaking on or foretelling what was happening in Harlem when we were working together? Like, what the fuck? So, but then I soon realized that no, he was pretending like he didn't know what I was talking about. See, that's another thing about people. They pretend like they don't know what you're talking about. They're not gonna say, "Nah, you bugging." Nah, they're gonna pretend because they want you to. That leaves pretending with silence leaves room for doubt. And I was like, "Yo, I'm really like I'm knee deep in a situation in which I have to figure out how to get myself out of." Um, and like I said, I had financial constraints. So he had begun abusive tactics. Um, and I had spoken out about that too. Like, you do know that this is abusive. And he started stonewalling me and things like that, and I'm like, oh my God, like, whoa. I Yes. um and I was angry because I'm like, why am I um in this situation? And I always begin with self. I'm like, you're still choosing individuals. So I'm like, you're still choosing individuals who are like this. Like, what the fuck is wrong with me? And not in a way in which I was beating myself up. It was in a way of trying to understand, why am I choosing individuals that are like this, you know? Um, so, all in all, I was really grateful that I was in this situation in order to learn what I knew I needed to learn. It wasn't easy though. It wasn't easy. Um, I did learn that I chose my father again. I chose aspects of my father. My father was very neglectful. He abandoned me. He just like completely disregarded me and outrightly was showing and telling me that I'm only good for XYZ. And like I finally like unraveled that, and that shit was painful. So throughout the romantic relational dynamic that didn't really exist in this past relationship. I was unraveling so much about myself, and that's pretty remarkable, right? You know, like instead of just dwelling on what was, I worked on myself even more. It allowed me to really understand why, the whys, the silent whys, the hidden whys, the unknown whys. Oh my gosh, you know, it was crazy. So, okay, so when the financial constraints began, um, I'm because I lived out of survival for so long, and I'm very adaptable. Which, and he told me that he was, when he in the beginning he was like, "You're very adaptable," and I read energy, and I got the feeling, the energetic feeling that he said that because he intended for me to be in a space in which I was so uncomfortable that I couldn't operate from my highest self. Because I'm a beast when I'm operating from my highest self. When I'm at peace, when I have, this is why, oh my gosh, this is why a lot of men, no, I won't even say men, but I think people like people with narcissistic traits and narcissistic people and just abusive people, I believe that they do the things that they do to their prey because they know that that individual is a powerful individual in their own right. And when you give that type of individual emotional security, stability, love and care and nurturing, and with the high quality aspects of those individuals, if they have that, the foundation, when they're dealing with a romantic partner, they have that beautiful foundation, they are going to surpass someone who is immature, who doesn't know self, who is abusive, and things like that. They know that. So they're not stupid. I learned that too. Like, you know, some people could be unintelligent, but that doesn't mean that they're stupid. They know out of whatever place they're operating from, they've mastered that. So I learned that too, and yeah. So I'm making this video because I'm not being quiet about it anymore. Like, I'm just tired of being quiet. People expect for you to be quiet, and because they don't want people to know about who they really are. He was an individual, even when we were friends, like he would say he didn't think that his family should stay in contact with his past romantic partners, although they grew a relationship together. And I'm like, so they're just supposed to break it? And he's like, yeah, I don't think that they should be cool together, cool with one another. And I never like went back and forth with him about it. I don't agree. I do understand why people would not want that, but being that I was in a relationship with him, I know that it's because he doesn't want people to know that he's abusive. He has this certain persona. He operates from his ego. He doesn't want people to know, especially his family members that he's trying to impress, that don't give a fuck. um, he doesn't want them to know that he's abusive. And I'm not keeping quiet about it anymore, you know? Like, people think that someone being abusive is physical and that's the worst that could happen. No, I have been mentally, psychologically, financially, emotionally abused. And not just by this individual. I have been abused by many people throughout my life in that aspect. So once I recognized those piss poor qualities within him through the dynamics that I was experiencing, the circumstances that I was experiencing, I was like, okay, like I was okay with just going within and until I could get on my feet, figure things out because I was a master. I told myself that I was a master at dealing with that. Not that it's okay, but my mother treated me that way. My father treated me that way. I had piss poor friends. I had acquaintances, workplace dynamics. I mean, you name it, exes. They have, in some ways, treated me that way. So I knew how to deal with it, you know. And through my experience with this past individual, I believe that he's a passive narcissistic individual. I didn't even know that five what kinds of narcissistic people existed. I just knew that narcissism existed, um, and that's only since I think 2020 is when I learned about narcissism. Um, but yeah, he's passive. He's very passive, and narcissistic people, they're already insecure. So to be a passive, uh, you got a lot of insecurities, like some deep seated and rooted insecurities. And that's not my problem, which is why my healing was attacked. You know, while I healed, that aspect of me was attacked. It wasn't just like, you know, that was attacked because he refuses to do that within himself. And when I was trying to be the mediator before I really came to the understanding of what I was dealing with, um, I I forgot what I was gonna say. Um, I just learned that, while I was trying to mediate, I was being met with his ego, and I don't deal with egos. I deal with my own, but I'm not going toe to toe with a man that's operating from an adolescent mindset in his ego. That's exhausting. And I know how to I know self-preservation. I know how to preserve my energy. I've cultivated a sense of peace within myself and my life, although things are not the way I would like for them to be, but I know that they're exactly the way that they're supposed to be. And I'm not letting anything or anyone disrupt that. And disruptors hate that. So they're going to keep hating because it's not, you can't penetrate this bubble. No. So yeah. Yeah, I chose a version of my own father I noticed that when I really pulled my energy away from the dynamic, I just simply said, I don't like talking to you. And that was almost a year ago. I just took my energy back. I realized how powerful I am, like energetically, and how much of my energy he was using to be somebody that he's not. And once I took that away, I saw who he really was, like really physically who he was. He has poor hygiene. Um, Very poor hygiene, and that starts from within. So if your hygiene is poor and it's showing from the outside, in whichever way, I could only imagine the turmoil that's within. And I don't have time for that. My energy was literally cloaking this person. That's how big my energy is. He was siphoning my energy. That's what the government does. Not to get off track, but the government is, they're literally reptilians, and they siphon your energy every moment of the day through these devices, through the so-called drama, the music you listen to, the things you watch, in order for them to cloak themselves as white men, white women. But when you pull your energy back, you start to see who they really are and what they're doing. And when they notice that you see it, they try to attack you. So when you feel like people are attacking you, when you feel like things are just being attacked, just go within. Understand that you are elevating within self. Protect your mind, because that's what they want. They want your mind. They want you to divulge what's in your mind and how it operates in order for them to use that. You know, when I realized I would say the seriousness of my financial situation in the past, I was like, you know what, I'm not gonna let this take over me. So I said I was gonna just find a job. And when I told him that, he became upset, and he was like, I thought we were gonna do, like, very passively, I thought we were gonna do something creative. And I was thinking to myself in a moment, like, we, like, that doesn't mean that we can't do it, but you haven't done anything creative. Like, I was literally just journaling with vlogs, my everyday life at the moment, in that moment, just because, not for the long term, but just because. And because I had the space and opportunity to do so, and he was not participating in that. So I backlogged that. No, I logged that. And when I needed to remember that, it was just like, okay, yeah, you thought that I was going to drive this entire situation. And only the universe will put you in a situation to reveal who is not for you. It may be uncomfortable, but I'm telling you, it's real. If I wasn't in that financial situation, I would not have known at the moment, at least at the moment, who he really was and what he was using me for. People don't just use you for your body. They don't, as far as being a woman. They will use you for your mind. Like, it's real now. People will use you for your mind. And at first I was like humbling myself, like, I'm not trying to say that I'm this high and mighty person, but I realized through the struggles, my own natural ability to lead, my own intelligence that he naturally doesn't have, nor want to cultivate within self. So I was like, yeah, you use my mind. And every time I pull it back, when I get silent, when I just don't want to talk about something, explain the plan, say my woo woo about I'm just going to trust the universe. Because I do, you get angry. Because you're logical, you're 3D. Yo, this is literally like when the devil can't get to you, they gonna send you a fucking man. As a woman, well, as a man too. I mean, shit, if you into men, and that's what's been happening. You know. And at first, I didn't want to talk about it because I was mad. I was mad that I was being energetically siphoned in that way. Like when you come to some harsh truths, I don't deal with sweet lies. I hate it. When you come to some harsh truths, you have to really integrate that truth. And this is why you see people being manic, so to speak, because they haven't integrated the truth. Yet at the same time, your anger is sacred. And I learned that too during this process, during this situation. I had become very angry, and it was backlogged anger because I was being energetically siphoned, and I take my energy very seriously, you know, and clearly everybody else does too. They want it, you know. Even though it's dark, my face is glowing. This is what I also did. I focused on my skincare. And every time I did that, I glow. Glow. Yeah. So, I don't know. I have more to say. Like, a lot has gone down. I've been living here in Thailand for 3 years, and I officially ended that dynamic last year. But he left me energetically, I would say 2.5 years ago. You know, like just lying and being immature and like, get the fuck out of here. But yeah, so I don't know what else to say at the moment. But when I think about it, I'll come back and I'll let you know. And it's getting dark, so yeah. If you want to know anything else, I am glad to talk about it. I really am. I'm at the point where I don't give a fuck no more. So, peace out. Catch you on the next one.